I decided to write this all down because 3 nights ago the news ran a short segment about another string of disappearances in the high desert north of Tonopah, Nevada. 5 people this time, 2 hunters, a photographer, and a young couple on a road trip. The sheriff's office is calling it exposure and disorientation. They always start with the safe explanations. I know better. I was a deputy sheriff in a little place called Coldwater Creek, Nevada, back in 2004 when the same thing happened to an entire town of 700 souls. By the time it was finished, the place was empty and the government slapped a classified environmental hazard label on it to keep people away. I have never spoken about this publicly in 20 years. Some of the people who got out are still alive and they begged me never to tell. But 5 more are missing and the desert is big and patient, so here's the truth. My name is Nathan Brooks. In 2003 I was 35 years old, 8 years on Las Vegas Metro, burned out from too many domestic calls and too many bodies on the freeway. My wife Laura taught 3rd grade and our daughter Madison had just turned 12. We wanted quiet. We wanted stars you could actually see and neighbors who waved instead of flipping you off. Coldwater Creek looked perfect on the map: 1 stoplight, 1 Mormon ward house, 1 diner called the Sagebrush Cafe, 1 Conoco station, 1 barbershop, 1 combination elementary middle high school with maybe 160 kids total, and mountains all around that swallow the sun by 4:30 in winter. We bought a 3-bedroom brick house on Pine Street for $92,000 and moved in the first week of June. The air smelled like sage and hot creosote, and I remember thinking this was the safest place on earth. The first call came on the night of September 19, 2003. Ruth Caldwell, 78 years old, widow, lived alone in a little adobe house where the pavement ended and the sagebrush took over. She called dispatch at 10:15 at night, nearly whispering into the phone. Something had been looking in her bedroom window for 3 nights running. Always the same time, always the same window, always too high up. Ruth was 4'11" on a good day, and that windowsill sat at 6 feet. Whatever was looking in had to be standing on a box or be 8 feet tall. She said she couldn't make out a face, only pale skin and eyes that caught her porch light like a cat's, shining flat and yellow. I drove out there with my mag light and walked the whole perimeter. The dirt under the window was baked hard from summer, but there were scrape marks, for parallel grooves like something with claws had braced itself against the wall to look in. I measured them with my pocket knife. The grooves were 2 inches deep and spaced wider than any human hand. I told Ruth to keep her .38 on the nightstand and call if it came back. I figured bored teenagers or some tweaker from the reservation pulling a prank. For more calls that same week. Old Jerry Whitaker swore something walked across his tin roof at 2 in the morning, heavy enough to rattle the gutters and leave dents you could see from the ground. Mary Ellis's motion light kept triggering, but her game camera caught nothing but empty frames with the timestamp. Frank and Donna Hayes woke up to find their dog refusing to go outside, just standing at the door growling at nothing until sunrise. Every single person used the same words: too tall, moved wrong, proportions off, like the limbs didn't fit the body right. Sheriff Hank Larson and I sat in the office drinking Berg coffee and told each other it was mass hysteria. Small towns do that. One person sees a coyote standing on its hind legs in the headlights and suddenly half the county is seeing Sasquatch. Then the livestock started dying and everything changed. It began with Dale Parsons' sheep on the night of October 2nd. Dale ran about 100 head on 20 acres behind his place. He woke up to silence, no bleeding, no bells, nothing. 23 sheep lay torn open in the corral, guts pulled out and strung across the sagebrush like party streamers, throats ripped so wide you could see spine. Nothing eaten. Not one bite taken. The barbed wire fence was peeled back like the top of a sardine can, metal twisted into spirals no human strength could manage. No clear tracks, just smears of blood that looked black under flashlight. Dale stood there in his bathrobe with a Remington across his arms and cried like a child. 3 nights later, Karen Holt lost every chicken she owned, 42 birds, heads twisted off and stacked in a perfect pyramid in the middle of the coop, bodies arranged in a circle around the heads like some kind of ritual. Again, nothing eaten. By the end of October, we had 61 dead animals across 14 properties. Chickens, goats, sheep, 2 calves, somebody's pet llamas. Always ripped apart, always left to rot, always the fence destroyed in ways that made no sense. People started sitting on their porches with rifles and lanterns all night. Tom Greer chained his gate shut and slept in his barn with his dogs for 8 straight nights. The one night he went inside to eat supper with his wife, something came back and killed every single goat he owned, 31 animals, and stacked the bodies against his front door like cordwood. Tom opened the door the next morning and the top goat fell inside still warm. That was when the voices started. November 3rd, 11:58 at night. Melissa and Ryan Langford called from the Bar L Ranch 5 miles west of town. Melissa was hysterical on the phone. Something outside was calling Ryan's name in Ryan's exact voice, saying he was hurt bad and needed her to come help him right now. Melissa almost opened the door. She was half asleep and thought Ryan had gone out to check the horses and gotten injured. Then she rolled over and Ryan was right there snoring beside her. The voice came again from directly under their bedroom window. "Melissa, honey, open the door, I'm bleeding real bad, I need you." Ryan woke up hearing himself outside the house while he was inside it. He grabbed his 12-gauge pump and I got there in 7 minutes running code. Every light in the house was on, porch light, barn light, even the Christmas lights they hadn't taken down yet. Ryan met me on the porch shaking so hard the shotgun rattled against the railing. Their 2 boys, 8 and 10, were huddled on the couch with Melissa, all 4 of them crying like the world was ending. I went around back with Ryan covering me. The ground was soft from a rare rain 2 days earlier. Prints. Bare human-shaped feet but 14 inches long, toes splayed too wide, stride over 6 feet between steps like whatever made them was taking giant leaps. I measured them with my tape, took 34 photos with the department's brand new 3-megapixel digital camera, tried to make plaster casts but the ground was too rocky and the casts cracked when I lifted them. The tracks went 52 yards toward the dry wash behind their barn and vanished. Not faded away, vanished mid-stride like the thing stepped off the planet and kept walking in thin air. Ryan stood next to me staring at that last print and said, "Nathan, what in the hell is this?" I didn't have an answer. I had never felt so small in my life. We put extra patrols on, drove by their place every hour, told them to sleep with guns loaded and doors barred. I wrote the report exactly as I saw it. Unknown subject perfectly mimicking resident's voice. Abnormal barefoot prints measuring 14 inches terminating without explanation. Sheriff Hank read it the next morning, took off his hat, rubbed his bald spot, and said nothing for a long time. We both knew we were in water way over our heads and sinking fast. By mid-November the school was falling apart. Kids who used to walk home alone were suddenly getting picked up in caravans of dusty Suburbans. Teachers reported children drawing the same tall figure with no face over and over in art class. Recess got moved indoors. The principal called an emergency meeting and asked if we should close the school completely. Hank and I told him to lock every door and keep the kids inside until a parent showed up in person. Saying it out loud felt ridiculous, like we were preparing for war against shadows. My own daughter Madison stopped talking about school. She started sleeping with the hall light on and the biggest kitchen knife she could find under her pillow. Laura found her once at 3:12 in the morning sitting fully dressed in the bathtub because the closet felt safer than the bed. Madison was 12 going on 30 and she would not tell us what she had seen or heard. She just looked at us with those big blue eyes that had gone old overnight. Then came the night that broke the town in half. November 15th, 5 local kids piled into Tyler Brooks' lifted Ford and drove out to the old bombing range road where teenagers go to drink beer and make out under the stars. Tyler 17, Ashley Miller 16, Jordan Hayes 17, Megan Holt 16, and little Cody Ramsey 15. Good kids mostly, honor roll, football team, church on Sunday. They built a bonfire in a clearing ring by Joshua trees, cracked open a 30-pack of Coors, turned the radio up loud enough to scare coyotes for miles. Around 11:27 the radio cut to static and the fire flared blue like someone poured something chemical on it. The kids said the air got thick, heavy, like before a thunderstorm even though the sky was clear and full of stars. They heard branches snapping, slow at first, then faster, circling the clearing just outside the firelight. Tyler yelled, "Who's out there? Show yourself," and threw a full beer bottle into the dark. Something stepped 1 foot into the light. They all saw the same thing, 9 feet tall at least, rail thin, arms hanging to its knees, legs jointed wrong like they bent backward, skin the color of old bone under the firelight. No clothes. The head was elongated, smooth, no eyes, no mouth, no ears, just a blank oval stretched over skull. It tilted its head like it was listening to their heartbeats and took one more step forward. Cody screamed first. They ran. The thing dropped to all fours and came after them, covering 20 feet in a single bound, knuckles dragging sparks off the rocks, making a sound none of them could describe later, something between a baby crying and metal scraping bone. They made it to Highway 50 and flagged down a long-haul trucker who called us from the Sagebrush Cafe payphone. For kids, barefoot, clothes shredded by cactus, bleeding from a dozen scratches, hysterical and vomiting in the parking lot. Ashley Miller was missing. We searched all night. 37 volunteers, 4 dogs from Ely, a Black Hawk from Nellis by dawn. We found the bonfire still burning blue, the Ford doors open, stereo stuck on static. We found beer cans scattered like shrapnel, someone's Letterman jacket hanging from a Joshua tree 20 feet up. We found Ashley's sneakers placed side by side in the dirt like she stepped out of them and walked away barefoot. We found drag marks leading into a ravine, smears of blood that looked black and thick like oil in the headlights. The dogs hit the blood trail and lay down whining, tails between their legs, refused to take another step. One dog pissed itself and howled until its handler dragged it away. By sunrise we had every inch of a 7-mile radius covered and no Ashley. We found her 3 days later walking south on Highway 50 at dusk, barefoot, clothes torn to ribbons, eyes open but nobody home. A state trooper picked her up 63 miles from the bonfire site with no water and no memory of how she got there. Doctors in Ely ran every test known to man. Physically fine except feet torn to hamburger and severe dehydration. Mentally gone. Catatonic. She sat in the hospital staring at the wall for 6 weeks. Eventually she came back enough to function, moved to Reno, got a job scanning groceries, but she has never said one word about that night. Whatever she saw in the dark took her voice and left the shell. That was the night the exodus began. By Thanksgiving 42 families had packed U-Hauls and driven away without looking back. Houses sat empty with for sale signs flapping in the wind and windows already gathering dust. The Mormon bishop announced services would be held in Ely until further notice. The Sagebrush Cafe closed at 2 every day because nobody came in after dark. The Conoco ran out of 9mm, 45, and 30-06 3 times in 2 weeks. People started nailing plywood over windows like hurricane season in Florida even though the nearest ocean was 400 miles away. The Navajo construction crews, 23 families who commuted in from the reservation every day, stopped coming altogether after November 22nd. One elder named Raymond Yazzie pulled me aside outside the post office the day before Thanksgiving. He looked 70 but was probably 50, face carved deep as canyon walls. He said, "You feel it watching, don't you, deputy? It's been here since before the bombs, before the mines, before the white man. It's hungry for fear now, not meat. It learns your voice, learns your smell, learns what scares you most. Get your little girl out before it learns her name." I asked what it was called. He spat on the ground and walked away without another word. Break-ins started in January while people slept. First it was Diane Morrison on January 4th. Diane woke at 3:15 to find every light in the house on and the refrigerator door standing open. Food pulled out, jars unscrewed, milk poured in perfect circles on the tile like some kind of symbol. Nothing stolen. Drawers opened, clothes refolded inside out, books rearranged by color on the shelves. The back door wide open, snow blowing across the kitchen floor, but every window still locked from the inside. Muddy prints, long, four-toed, went through every room, up the stairs, stopped at the base of Diane's bed like whatever it was stood there listening to her breathe for a while before leaving. For more houses the same week. The Ramirez family barricaded their bedroom and listened to footsteps pacing the hallway for 2 hours straight, slow, deliberate, like it was counting heartbeats. Another family found their wedding album open to a photo of their 6-year-old daughter with the eyes scratched out with something sharp. Always the same prints. Always doors unlocked that had been dead-bolted and chained. Always nothing taken, just things touched, moved, violated. Sheriff Hank and I worked double shifts, sometimes triple, driving every street with shotguns across our laps and coffee that tasted like battery acid. The town felt haunted even in daylight. You'd see curtains twitch in houses that had been empty for weeks. Car alarms went off for no reason at 3:03 in the morning. Dogs howled at nothing and refused to go outside after dark. Some of them chewed through leashes and ran away never to be seen again. Then it came for the children. January 22nd, little Emma Ruiz, 9 years old, vanished from her bedroom between midnight and 5:12 a.m. Parents woke to an open window and a screen cut out in a perfect circle with no tool marks. No footprints in the snow under the window, just a single long black hair caught on the sill that made the lab techs in Carson City say unknown origin and close the file fast. We searched for 6 days with bloodhounds, helicopters, thermal imaging from Nellis. Found Emma's backpack hanging from a juniper tree 15 feet off the ground like an ornament. Found her nightgown folded neatly on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Found nothing else. Emma is still missing. Sometimes truckers on Highway 50 say they see a little girl in a white nightgown walking the median at night, but when they stop she's gone. That was when the state police finally took us seriously. They sent 12 troopers, 3 K-9 units, and a mobile command trailer. The dogs tracked Emma's scent to the edge of an old bomb crater from the 50s and lay down shaking, tails between their legs, refused to take another step. One dog started biting its own leg until the handler shot it with a tranquilizer. The state guys stayed 12 days, took 400 statements, photographed every print, collected 17 of those black hairs. Lab came back inconclusive, no match to known species, possible contamination. They left quieter than they came. By February the town was down to maybe 180 holdouts, mostly old ranchers too stubborn to leave and folks too poor to move. The school closed permanently February 9th. The Sagebrush Cafe shuttered forever. You could fire a cannon down Main Street at noon and not hit a soul. The only sounds were wind rattling empty swing sets and coyotes howling closer every night. Then it came for my family. February 9th, 2:43 in the morning. I was on patrol when dispatch called a possible 211 at my own address. My own house. I broke every speed limit getting home, lights and siren the whole way. Laura met me at the door holding Madison so tight her knuckles were white. Madison was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. She said she woke up because someone whispered her name right in her ear, breath cold as dry ice. When she opened her eyes the closet door was open and something tall was standing inside watching her with a head like a blank white egg. It stepped out one step into the moonlight and Madison saw there were no eyes, no mouth, no nose, just smooth skin stretched over bone. It tilted its head and whispered again in my exact voice, "Madison, come to Daddy, it's safe in the dark, I'll keep you warm." Laura heard it too from the hallway, my voice calling from inside Madison's room when I was 23 miles away on the other side of town. She grabbed Madison and ran, locked themselves in our bedroom, pushed the dresser against the door, and called dispatch from the landline. I searched the house top to bottom with my AR-15 and a flashlight that felt too small. Found the window in Madison's room forced from the outside, claw marks in the wood deep enough to splinter it. Found those long four-toed prints in the carpet leading from the closet to the bed and back again. Found a single black hair on Madison's pillow that made my skin crawl just to look at. That night we packed 3 suitcases and left before sunrise. Laura's sister Kelly lives in Boise, Idaho. We drove straight through, 16 hours, Madison asleep in the back under a blanket clutching the stuffed horse she'd had since she was 4. We never went back for the rest of our things. The house is still there, windows boarded, lawn gone to weeds taller than a man. Sometimes truckers on Highway 50 say they see lights moving inside at night, or a tall shadow standing in the upstairs window watching the road. Sheriff Hank held out another 3 weeks. Then one morning in March 2004 the governor declared a state of emergency and ordered mandatory evacuation of the entire town. Official reason: environmental contamination from historic military testing, possible radiological hazard. The real reason was classified so deep I still can't find it with a FOIA. FEMA set up trailers in Ely and Tonopah. The last 73 residents were bussed out under National Guard escort on March 29th. They blocked every road for 31 days. Coldwater Creek has been off limits ever since. The town is still there if you know the back roads, slowly falling in on itself. The school gym roof collapsed last year. Sagebrush grows through the cracks in Main Street. The Sagebrush Cafe sign still hangs crooked over a door that bangs in the wind. The BLM posted no trespassing signs and pretends it's about unexploded bombs. Every few years some YouTubers or ghost hunters sneak in with drones and night vision cameras. Most come out fast and quiet. A few never come out at all. I heard from Hank last year. He lives in Montana now, fishes every day, drinks a fifth of Jack every night. He says sometimes when the wind is right he still hears Madison's name whispered across the water, except Madison is 30 now, married, lives in Portland with her own little girl who looks just like her at that age. Hank says whatever it was never left the desert. It's just waiting for the next town to get small enough, quiet enough, scared enough to notice it's already inside the houses. Stay out of the empty places between towns, friends. Some things were never human, and some hunters only grow when you feed them fear.